What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a very particular player who might be the complete X factor for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season to make them either good or bad, competitive or not a playoff team. Hopefully it doesn't get that significant, but the point is this player could take them to new heights or make them, for lack of better words, mid. So we're going to get into the video today. Before you can get into the video, if you can drop a like, drop a comment at the end of the video once you've watched it and let me know what you think about the video. If you like any of the takes I have or you want to dispute them, let me know. And obviously drop a subscription, that'd be great. And yeah, let's get right into it. This player yesterday played just over 20 minutes of ice time, had 5 shots on net as a defenseman, a goal and an assist. Yes, we're talking about Morgan Rielly, the Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman who's the longest tenured player on the team. You have to give him a lot of credit. He played an amazing game yesterday, and let's talk about this game a little bit. Morgan Rielly was actually the third highest time on ice yesterday among any Leafs defensemen. He was not even in the top 2, but it didn't stop him from putting up 2 points, including a beautiful goal, and putting up crazy offensive shifts, putting up a lot of shots on net with 5. That's very abnormal for a defenseman. So you have to give him a lot of credit for that. He was jumping up a lot in the offense, making plays happen. I thought he had a very, very solid game, and I think his two-way play was very sturdy. And this is why we have to talk about Morgan Rielly for his 2025-26 season. Let's get the elephant out of the room really quickly and talk about the departure of Mitch Marner affecting the Leafs power play. Mitch Marner was the quarterback of the Leafs power play, and obviously he did a great job at that position. He's now in Vegas. So that's the last time I'm going to talk about Marner in this video, I promise. Let's talk about Morgan Rielly. How will he do in that power play quarterback role? Well, let's talk about how he is a very effective passer. His shot can be good. Obviously, he doesn't really have that one-timer, but his snapshot is solid, and he can make good plays to the shooters like Nylander and Matthews. But his role in that quarterback position on the power play is actually much more significant than people think. I think we saw the significance of an important defenseman on the power play yesterday because we actually conceded a shorthanded goal as well as just gave up a lot of, off-man chances in our own zone on our power play. We need two-way play from our quarterback on the defense, and Mitch Marner did it well last year. I have to give him credit for that. But Morgan Rielly has to be that guy this year. He has to produce in the power play if you want to be in that 25% range in the upper tier of the league. He's got to be a great quarterback on this team and rack up at least, I would say, 10 to 15 plus power play points. So last season, the Leafs were 9th in the league in power play scoring with about 24%. But all the time with Morgan Rielly, according to StatMuse, their percentage is about 22% clicks with, Morgan Rielly at the power play, number 1 defenseman. That's realistically just not good enough. You have to compete on the power play. Special teams are so important in the current day NHL, and I think they've got to be upwards of 25% this season if they want to win. For that reason, Morgan Rielly has to be that dominant power play 1 defenseman. We're lucky to say that our number 1 defenseman, quote unquote, is only making $7.5 million, but he has to warrant that, and he has to be an $8-9 million player if he wants to be that elite defenseman in the upper tier, upper 10-15 defenseman in this league. And right now, he's not. But he could be. He had an amazing start to the season, and to see if he can keep that momentum rolling. But that's the power play. What about the rest of the game? What about 5-on-5? Well, Morgan Rielly has to be a huge contributor on this team on offense. We know that our defense core when it comes to McCabe, Tanev, Carlo, Ekman-Larsson, and Benoit, as well as any other players like Myers and Henry Thrun, these guys are not offensive defensemen. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was at one point, but he's not really there anymore. Morgan Rielly has always been a good player when it comes to transitioning to the offensive zone, but last season was really tough for him. He did not put up a good point total at all, nowhere near his standards, and a lot of people really gave up on Morgan Rielly. They actually want to trade him, and I won't sit here and say that I was never, critical of him. I definitely was, but I don't think we should have traded him. I think we made the right choice to keep him because not only is he a hometown player, he loves playing in Toronto, and he's a very loyal player to our team. But when it comes down to, we're seeing a lot of the contracts some of these defensemen are signing. And I'm not saying he's better than the likes of Jackson Lacombe, Luke Hughes, but he's making less money than them right now. And you could argue that he could be just as good a producer, especially in the short term, than those guys can. $7.5 million is somewhat reasonable given the cap going up. Even though he had a bad season last year, if he can be a 50, 60-point producer this season, that warrants the contract he has. And I think we have to give him credit if he's able to hit that note. Because a lot of people have been very critical of Morgan Rielly. And if he does hit that, then we have to give him, his flowers. Realistically, the Leafs have a big gap in offense this season, and Morgan Rielly has to step up. He's got to get to that 60-point range, especially if he's a number one power play, defenseman quarterback for good this season. Obviously, he had his moments last year before they went to the 5-forward power play unit, but he's got to contribute. But not only that, he has to contribute on the defensive end. With Morgan Rielly playing pretty big minutes on this team, at times last season, they didn't trust him to play those big minutes. But if he's playing 20-plus minutes every night, as he probably should be, he has to prove that he's warranting that on the defensive end as well. Yes, he's paired with a very good defenseman in Brandon Carlo, someone who's a true lockdown defenseman. Doesn't have much offense in his game, but he's a very sturdy defensive defenseman and a big body out there. But Morgan Rielly has to take that to his advantage. He's playing a full season with Brandon Carlo, and can he make the most of it by getting involved more in the offense than he was last season, but also playing a good two-way game? This point that's really important to make is that Morgan Rielly is an assistant captain of this team. And yes, we've had a few assistant captains over the years, but the point is Morgan Rielly is one of the leaders of this team. He has to play like it. Last season, he was not one of the leaders of the team, at least on the ice. Maybe off the ice, he was doing a good job. And I'm a Morgan Rielly fan, don't get me wrong, but he was not playing like on the ice. He wasn't playing with the heart we normally see from him. There was a time where people were calling for Morgan Rielly to be the Captain Morgan, captain of the Maple Leafs. And it's not that long ago. So he has to get back to that. He's on a good start right now. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen in the comment section down below for this season. I'm projecting about around 60 points for Morgan Rielly. If he can be that number one power play defenseman the whole season, there's no reason why he can't hit it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What you think about Morgan Rielly's output this season, about the Leafs overall this season. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure you drop a like, comment on the video your thoughts, and subscribe like I said before. Have a great Thursday and the rest of the weekend, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.